From soaring mountains to dank dungeons, the world of Elden Ring is one of the most strange, exciting, haunting, and above all, stunningly beautiful gaming worlds ever created. And while as a package the lands between offer an experience unlike anything else in their design and atmosphere, not all areas are created equal. So in this video I rank every major area in Elden Ring, excluding legacy dungeons and smaller zones, because this game is ridiculously massive, from worst to best. This is Rogue Ranks. Number 9, Lake of Rot. Okay, I know I just said I'll be doing major regions, but Lake of Rot makes the list because it's so awful I had to make an exception. To me, Lake of Rot is the worst area in Elden Ring, however it may not be for the reasons you are thinking. Sure, it's just a massive bowl of putrid death that is more potent and deadly than any other poison swamp in the series, and sure, it features some of the most annoying to fight in groups enemies, and for some reason they are exclusively in groups here, and yeah, it's overall a miserable nightmare that could only be dreamt up by a man who loves poison death swamps more than his own children. But despite all of that, I mostly just find the area incredibly boring. For how much the concept of rot impacts the lore, enemies, and locations throughout the game, being this unstoppable eldritch plague that infects not just living beings, but the very stones they walk upon, having an area called the Lake of Rot just being this empty and boring is just extremely underwhelming. The Lake of Rot doesn't feature any unique enemies or interesting set pieces, and I find that just really disappointing given how much care and thought is put into other areas. More than anything, it's the potential that Lake of Rot could have been a really special area, however it just feels like an unfinished afterthought, and again, I'm not mad, just disappointed. Number 8, Consecrated Snowfield. Coming in as the second worst area in Elden Ring is the Consecrated Snowfield. I know others might put different areas lower, but for me personally, the Snowfield was the worst thing an area could be, which is forgettable. I honestly had a hard time remembering what was even in this region until I loaded up the game and ran around it for a bit. All I really remembered was being frustrated with the blizzard mechanics and massive size of the area. There's no reason this area had to be so absolutely huge in scale with just nothing in it. While visually I do like a lot of what Consecrated Snowfield does with the towering ice pillars and snow effects, and special shout out to the frozen over cave areas. And I also like that it does introduce a new enemy type, a rare thing in the endgame of Elden Ring with these wolf riding archers. However, the Snowfield ultimately just feels extremely half-baked and lacking any of the incredibly tight and fantastic design of earlier regions in the game. An unfortunate theme of Elden Ring's endgame that carries into our next worst area. Number 7, Mountaintop of the Giants. Likely unsurprisingly, the Mountaintop of the Giants is another disappointing area for me. I can't say it's worse than the Snowfield because despite its many flaws, I actually find the Mountaintop of the Giants very memorable and the journey upwards to the Fire Giant very immersive and intense on kind of just an aesthetic level. The actual gameplay of following what ends up being a very large but linear path towards the looming Forge of the Giants is disappointingly filled with recycled and nonsensical enemies. While I'm sure there's some obscure lore reasons why the mutated birds of Caelid appear once again, they feel completely out of place and just lazily thrown in to fill the area with some content. That being said, I think the region and design itself had massive potential. Lore notwithstanding, I would have liked to see actual giant enemies guarding the Flame Peak itself, intent on stopping the Tarnished from reaching the Forge, with giant traps and obstacles placed, making the climb feel like an epic ascent. I overall just think a lot more could have been done with this area, and ultimately it once again feels like rushed, lost potential, which is a shame, given that I think it has really cool visuals, including the Forge itself, which is just an epic set piece. Number 6, Altus Plateau. In what might be a controversial pick, we have Altus Plateau as next best from Mountaintop. And really this just comes down to just how much more I enjoy the rest of the regions. The rest of this list, including Altus, I would consider fantastic in their own way, and none of them really kill the pacing or the vibes like the previous 3. That being said, while Altus Plateau has many fantastic qualities, namely its incredibly beautiful golden aesthetic, the visual of Lanedale which is ever present as you journey through it, and the fact that it features some really intense and memorable boss fights, Altus Plateau always felt like much more of a connective tissue area instead of its own distinct region. It's hard to describe because while the area is massive and features many things to find and do as you explore, the pressure of reaching the capital at this point in the game and narratively, and the fact that you're this close to it, made me almost feel guilty for taking my time exploring the region around it. I think Altus Plateau has so many amazing qualities, but on a personal level, I just didn't enjoy exploring it nearly as much as the rest of the game's locations. All that being said, the feeling of assaulting the massive gate heavily guarded by 2 tree sentinels is a very badass moment in the game. Number 5, Mount Gelmir. No other region in Elden Ring embraces intricate verticality quite like Mount Gelmir. Despite its gray and dull color tones, I actually find this region extremely engaging to tackle each time I play through it. And while yes, the ladders are a bit annoying, the sheer verticality of making your way ever upwards in what is in my opinion an extremely unique uniquely designed area by FromSoft is incredibly fun to me. It helps set the path upwards through the mountain leads players to one of the best legacy dungeons in the game. And the visuals of reaching this looming fortress sitting precariously on the cliff sides are definitely awe-inspiring. The journey to the top and battling the falling star beast within the crater was also an extremely memorable and epic feeling moment to me, and just another reminder that Elden Ring is something special, and offers experiences that can't be found in any other video game. Overall, I just really enjoyed the design elements and uniqueness of Mount Gelmir's jagged peaks. Number 4, Shifra River. While once again, Shifra River is technically not as large of an overworld region as the others in this list, I just had to include it because it represents one of the most memorable and jaw-dropping moments within the entire game. Here I am aimlessly wandering and exploring through some misty forest when I come across a small building. Oh, what's this, an elevator? Cool, probably just another little dungeon or mine to explore. Why does it keep going? Why does it keep going? Oh, as I first received a glimpse of the massive sprawling world underneath the world that awaited below in Shifra River, I knew this game was something special. This is one of those core video game memories that last with you forever, and Shifra River and its beauty and mystery remains one of my favorite regions within the entire game. It was so unique and alien compared to what had been experienced before, introducing some very interesting new enemy types and some beautiful boss battles. And I still enjoy this ridiculously long elevator ride to the world beneath every single time I play it. Number 3, Limgrave. Limgrave represents an almost perfect introduction to the world of Elden Ring. With a fantastic mix of tough open-world boss battles, caves, and mines to explore, massive sweeping landscapes, Limgrave was essentially the experience of Elden Ring boiled down into one starting area. I say almost perfect because while I think from a gameplay design and layout perspective it's incredible, I just wish it had a bit more going for it visually. It's just sort of a basic area, and while that first view of the landscape with the Erd Tree and Stormvale looming in the distance is still breathtaking, I wish there was just a bit more color and vibrance to the region itself. Even so, it features a fantastic soundtrack and area design, and again serves as the perfect launching pad for the massive adventure awaiting the player. I was blown away on my initial playthrough with just how dense this area was, and even now still find little secrets I missed on previous playthroughs. Just a wonderful introduction to Elden Ring. Number 2, Caelid. Who knew such a horrifying nightmare world could be just so fun to explore? Caelid was such a shock to the system after exploring the relatively tranquil starting areas that it immediately hooked me on its creepy and terrifying vibes. The weird mutated trees and mushrooms and alien landscape of the mottled plants and stones, the massive skulls coated in infected growths. Caelid was nightmare fuel made real, and I am all here for it. I get that many find its creepy atmosphere off-putting, but as someone whose favorite Soulsborne is Bloodborne, I personally love when From takes the gloves off and just goes full-blown horror mode with their area and enemy designs. The enemies in Caelid are so striking and unique, with monstrous bulbous features that seem incapable of even surviving under their own mutations. The creepy insect-like kindreds of rot, as annoying as they are to fight, were very unique visually and added to the oppressive atmosphere of the area. Redmane Castle and the journey to the festival were just extremely well-paced and well done, and overall, Caelid remains such a striking and unique zone that is just fun to explore and discover how far this rot has spread within it. My only gripe with the zone is Dragon's Barrow, which is kind of bland and disappointing compared to the rest of the area, but ultimately Caelid is one of the most memorable and unique regions within the entire game, and I love it. Number 1, Liurnia of the Lakes. The beauty and majesty of Liurnia is hard to describe, and as an overall package, from areas, dungeons, and caves to explore, boss fights, lore, and NPC interactions, it remains my favorite region within the entirety of Elden Ring. The initial reveal of Liurnia, as the player likely just spent hours exploring Limgrave, only to emerge from Stormvale onto a cliff face and finally get an actual sense for just how massive the world of Elden Ring really is, with the jaw-dropping visuals of the Academy looming in the fog in the distance, was just an absolutely awe-inspiring moment. The magical blue moats floating above the lake, the glowing crystals sprouting from the ground, the very area itself is infused with magical power, and it comes across so well in the designs and soundtrack. It's also shockingly big, with plenty of secrets to uncover and satisfying combat to engage within, and I never found myself bored or disengaged with the content I was absorbing as I played through it. Personally, just love riding around Liurnia, soaking in the sights, and enjoying the massive, almost magically floating academy as it sits perched atop the cliffs above the lakes. It's also my favorite area to explore in the game at night, with some downright beautiful lighting effects, and overall it's just a wonderful representation of Elden Ring's unique aesthetic. While almost every other region clearly shows the influences of Dark Souls and Bloodborne, Liurnia for some reason comes across as the most authentic authentically an originally Elden Ring location for me, and I love it for that. It is a welcome change compared to the other areas, and overall is just the complete package. Just absolutely outstanding game design. I hope you enjoyed my rankings, and I'm curious to see if you agree or disagree. Let me know in the comments how you would personally rank the major regions and areas of Elden Ring, and which is your favorite. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more rankings and tier lists. That's it for me. Until next time.